Let's talk about the constructor property. The constructor property returns the constructor function for all JavaScript variables. So when we are talking about the constructor property, its duty is that it returns the constructor function for all JavaScript variables. So let's take a look at an example in my code editor. So here we are learning about the constructor property. Constructor property. So just as I read in the slide now that the constructor property returns the constructor function for a variable or an object. So I want to output what that looks like. So I want to pass a string john.constructor and I want to add a group. You can see this returns John. And don't forget, let me put it here. The constructor property returns the constructor function for a variable or objects. So if you see this, oh sorry, this is wrong. It's not comma, it's dot constructor. Now you can see this. It returns function, string, and the native code. So the constructor property returns the constructor function for a variable and an object. You can see that this actually returns a function. You can see this is the function signature. This can take in data or parameters, and this can be where your function code live. You can see the opening and closing curly braces. So let's look at another one. Let's pass in a number like this. And then add the constructor function. Now, this also should return a function, as you can see, even though I'm passing a number. So let me pass a Boolean value. Let me say false.constructor. So this also will return a Boolean function, as you can see, a function signature and then a Boolean function that can take in data and then where the native code will live inside your function constructor. Then let me try another one, a number dot constructor. So this also should return a function for a big integer due to the presence of the n that signifies that this is a big integer, a very large number in JavaScript. I also want to try another one. So curly braces dot constructor. You can see this returns an object because the curly braces denotes an object declaration. So it returns an object function. Then let's try an array constructor to change this to square brackets. And this should return an array function, which is correct. So let's try a new date constructor as well. New dates. And you can see an anonymous function. And that is because a date constructor requires this. And you can see once I added that bracket, you can see that it has changed the narrative. The same thing can be done for set. New set dot constructor. It returns a set function. Then I can do the same thing for map. New map. Because all these three requires the new keyword when you want to declare them in JavaScript. And finally, I can pass in function. Function and objects braces. You can see function, and native code. So this is how the constructor property returns the constructor function for a variable or an object. So with the constructor, you can check if an object is an array. For example, let's check this with a simple example. So let's say I have an array like this, const, and then inside it, I need a square bracket. I have maybe mango, banana, apples. Now, this is my array, and now I want to check if this actually is an array. Now, if I use the type of, let's see, this should return an object. You can see that it's return an object, which is why type of is not ideal to check the type of an array. So to check the type of an array, we do it in a special way, and we use we can use the constructor to check. Constructor is one of the way. We also have other means through which we can check if an element is an array or not. Now, fruit.constructor equals array, and this should return true, which is correct because this is an array. But if I change this curly braces to something like this square bracket to something like a curly braces, you will see that this will return false. You will see that it not even accept it because this braces is for object and not for array. You can already see the error with this squiggly line under the comma. So this is how you can use the constructor function, the constructor property rather, to check if an element is an array in JavaScript. Then you can also check if an object is a date. So let's look at an example for that as well. We want to check if an object is a date. So let's set up our new date constructor, new date. And now with this document.getElement by ID inner.html equals to time.constructor equals dates. And this returns true. Even if you make it a strict equality by putting 3 equal sign, then it will also return true. So the constructor property is very useful when it comes to returning the constructor function for a variable or an object in JavaScript.